Hello and welcome to episode 208 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is September 12th, and together with Robert and Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone. So Sentinel for SAP has been around for quite some time now. It's even certified for RISE with SAP, and we see a lot of interest by customers in the additional protections that Sentinel can provide for their SAP systems. Speaking of SAP Systems, a lot of customers are using the SAP Business Technology Platform, BTP, to leverage the integration suite, SAP Fiori, or SAP Build services, and of course also AI core services. Just a few weeks back, the Microsoft Sentinel for SAP BTP solution went also into general availability, which means that now you can also detect attacks on BTP with Sentinel. To help us understand a little more about the features and what you can do with this, I'm happy to have Will King, Yossi Hasson, and Martin Pankraz with us today. Welcome, everyone. So before we dive into the topics, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, what you do at Microsoft, and what are you doing here?
Maybe
who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I'll go first. Thanks for bringing us on today. I'm really happy to speak to your viewer base, and hopefully they'll be interested in what we have to say. So my name is Will King. I'm a software engineer, part of the Microsoft Sentinel team. I work closely with Yossi with a focus on development of Sentinel solutions for business applications. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. So maybe I'll take it from here. So my name is Yossi. I'm the product manager in Microsoft Sentinel that is leading the business applications solutions on top of Microsoft Sentinel. So the purpose or the objective of those solutions is to monitor activities in business applications and detect threats, investigate them, respond to them, and so on. We cover actually two different business applications types today. We cover SAP solutions. This solution is, of course, in GA, including the BTP part of it. And the other solution that we also cover are the Microsoft BizApps solutions, Dynamics, and Power Platform that you can also monitor and detect threats on with Microsoft Sentinel.
Cool.
Very cool.
Martin?
My name is Martin Pankraz. I'm in the same team as Holger, which means I'm working with SAP as our co-engineering partner when we do stuff together. Also on BTP, the most prominent one was the SAP Private Link, for those folks who know it on BTP. And I also helped the Microsoft product groups on their SAP integration journey. And 2 years ago, I think, I was introduced to the security colleagues. And since then, I've been working with them on various topics. And to me, that's the coolest thing, because the security PG, the security product group, is like the fastest internally. Especially Azure Core has semesters that we're planning on, but in security, it's like quarters or even sometimes months. It just has to go, because security is fastest moving.
You have to react pretty fast, yes.
Yeah, so it's the coolest thing to work with the team from Yossi and Will and the other engineers. So it's very rewarding.
Perfect. So maybe before we dive into specifically BTP and how Sentinel can help with BTP, maybe Yossi, maybe you can give us a quick intro on what is this Sentinel thing? What is Sentinel for SAP? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, sure. So I actually prepared for us a few slides to review together to make it more easier for you to understand. Let me share my screen and we'll go through. So basically, Sentinel is first and foremost a SIEM solution. And for those of you that do not know what SIEM solutions are, security information and event management solution. So those kinds of their focus is to provide a single pane of glass for SOC analysts to see all of the security incidents in the organization, to detect threats, to investigate the threats, respond to them, and so on. Sentinel was actually the first cloud-native SIEM solution in the market, was launched about 4 years ago, already became one of the leading SIEM solutions. And as we can see, we have many partner integrations, a lot of connectors that collect logs from every infrastructure, device, users, applications, and so on. And the tool has very robust capabilities to, of course, detect threats based on those logs that are collected, allow the analysts tools to investigate the threats, to visualize the full scope of the attack, understand what was the source of the attack, and what should be done to resolve it or to manage it. Of course, response actions, that we'll see some of them here in the BTP solution, that lets the analyst to automatically or semi-automatically do response actions to mitigate the threats. And last and not least, of course, threat hunting. So being able to look at the logs, look at the data that was collected, and hunt for additional threats and so on. Of course, the Sentinel covers all cloud platforms, really agnostic and open to everything. It's important to say that in the last few months, we actually started consolidating the capabilities of Sentinel as a SIEM with other security products in Microsoft to create a unified security operations platform. We call it USOP in short. And as you see here in this pile of different pillars, SIEM is a very central pillar, but on top or in addition to the SIEM part, the same holistic solution provides capabilities such as threat intelligence, posture of systems, endpoints, and applications, and so on. It also combines with XDR capabilities, the extended detection and response capabilities, which are usually much easier to enable for customers, for the SOC organizations, and they provide a lot of out-of-the-box capabilities, while SIEM is a more of an extensible solution that lets you customize and add a lot of features and a lot of capabilities by yourself. And of course,
SAP likes that. Customizing and extending stuff is natural to SAP customers. Yeah.
Of course. And then, of course, AI is all over and all around us. So Copilot with Security Copilot is an integral part of the Unified Security Operations Platform to help you understand the detection story, what happened, help you respond to it, and so on. It also helps, of course, a lot in the detection of threats powered by AI and machine learning models. So inside this story of Sentinel as a SIEM and Unified Security Operations as something that connects SIEM and XDR and other capabilities, we actually have the Sentinel solution for SAP Applications. That is a solution that is already NGA for more than a year, certified by SAP, both for SAP on-premise, on the cloud, and for RISE, and basically gives you capabilities to monitor your SAP systems for any threats, detect very different type of threats, like privilege escalation, unapproved changes, and many more. Correlate the SAP signals with also other signals that come from your organization and the data sources that you're monitoring. And as we said before, it's very extensible. You can also build your own detections, monitor any sensitive transaction, do whatever is more relevant for your organization as an SAP customer. A part of the Sentinel for SAP solution, or actually complementing the Sentinel for SAP solution, we do have another solution that is focused on BTP, on Business Technology Platform, as BTP is becoming very important for SAP customers to power a lot of integrations and capabilities that SAP customers are looking for. And the Sentinel solution for SAP is very similar for SAP BTP. Is very similar to the Sentinel solution for SAP in terms that it collects the logs, the audit logs from SAP BTP, and provides some out-of-the-box detection capabilities that helps you detect some, let's say, major or well-known threats and issues that hackers may try to exploit. And as we said earlier, you can also build your own detections, build your own response actions, and so on. And that's mainly what I hope Martin and Will cover in the rest of this podcast.
I think that's perfect. And for me, what I think was really great that you also now adopted BTP is, I mean, customers obviously not only have an ECC on-premise system or something like that, but They have BTP, they have other SAP solutions, and for me, one of the main benefits of Sentinel was always that it was not only concentrating on one solution, but you could really ingest data from a lot of different data sources. And I mean, a hacker obviously, yeah, maybe targets one specific system, but then once they are there, they go from system to system to system. So maybe you don't detect the initial attack, but then maybe you can trace it across all these different other solutions. And now BTP is a super important part now for SAP customers. So having now natively an integration into the SAP ERP system, but also to BTP, I think is a huge value for our customers.
To some customers, BTP is the first internet-facing application connected to their SAP systems. Otherwise, they were used to firewalls, privately isolated things in their DMZs. But this is really then the first thing that you need to treat differently, maybe.
Yeah.
And one more thing I wanted to call out, Microsoft has a very large security operations center protecting all our SaaS services. And they're also running this tool set. And Yossi's team and Will, they have regular exchanges with them. Like we call it internally always the customer zero, because Microsoft IT and SOC team, they are like the first ones to try new stuff or give feedback on attack factors that we need to adjust. So what do you have there? Will, like bi-weeklies with them? How does it go?
That's right. Yeah, we have we kind of have quite a large team internally. As you can imagine, Microsoft's a big company, and so there are different kind of pockets of SAP use across the business, and we tend to interact with the the security side of that, the operational staff, as well as some of the architects as well, who are very much interested in how they can secure BTP. And obviously, what we find is that the customers we speak to, as well as Yossi and I talk to, who use our solution, we learn a lot from them too. We learn about how customers are adopting BTP, and what we find is that many customers are now ramping up their use in production, and they're starting to actively use BTP. And we also find that with that becomes a lot of responsibility to make sure that BTP deployment is secure. And it reminds me very much of our Azure environment. Our customers who use Azure, they're used to this concept of subscriptions, and they'll deploy resources in those subscriptions, and BTP reminds me very much of that. And there's a lot of things that could go wrong there potentially in terms of exposure, in terms of breaches. So that's why this is a really important technology that we need to secure, and Sentinel having detection and monitoring is really important for our customers in that space.
Yeah, I think what's always a reoccurring pattern there is that we look at Microsoft IT, or we use Microsoft IT as a customer zero, not only here for security, but for a lot of other things. And I think actually that's a huge strength from Microsoft, because we have been an SAP customer for so many years, and a lot of pains, a lot of requirements that we have are exactly the same as a lot of our customers have. So, and obviously we now have the luxury of working with Microsoft as a customer zero, maybe get some requirements from them, maybe work with them. And in this case, also get some feedback on BTP and how they want to protect BTP.
Yeah, we are a very large BTP customer as well, on the Microsoft side. So, and the trigger for today was actually a responsible disclosure that one of the security companies in the US made when they approached SAP because they identified a vulnerability. So they could patch it in time and make sure that no problems occur from this. We use that to come up with a narrative on what are the steps that are usually need to be taken to have a secure BTP environment. And there's some best practices that SAP proclaims, and we've been enriching them to some extent, to have a complete set. And I want to quickly show this graphic here. So this is basically the overview, and we will be checking some of the details in the demo that Will and I will be running. And here in the middle, you see the subaccount that Will was already referring to. And in there, you have all the services that write to SAP's internal audit log. And this is basically the source that the BTP solution on the Sentinel side taps into. And for instance, you have here on the left the Business Application Studio, which is the development environment on the BTP side. And one of the things that you can do here that refer to even supply chain problems in software development. They have a automatic detection of malware files. And when you want to test this, you can put in the file with the standard antivirus test file from ICAR, like this. And then this would show up on your audit log. And we also have a detection for this. Not for this test file, but for the actual alert that detects any malware infections that can happen to your development space on BTP Business Application Studio. And what this then does, it creates audit log entries. So I'm here on my Postman, I'm checking SAP's API like in a raw fashion, so to say. I'm directly calling it. And this is the response that Sentinel out of the box processes. And when you check here, when we search for malware, we see actually here is this entry that I created yesterday when I created that file. You see here, there's the file name. Yeah? So this shows up on SAP's audit log, and everything that is in here is something that we can process on the Sentinel for BTP solution side.
Let me quickly just recap. So the Business Application Studio is the development environment for BTP, very much like Visual Studio Code or whatever. So that's what SAP developers are using on the BTP side. And now, when you save a file there, then this is processed in the audit log. But in order to test vulnerabilities, there is a certain string, basically. That's the string that you just showed, that is supposed to trigger some alerts, basically. So you save this file, and now you saw this in the SAP audit log, and obviously you did this manually now here in Postman, but potentially the very same could be then now automated also on the Sentinel side.
Yes, and I would show the result because we have an out-of-the-box detection for this.
Cool.
We'll design that. Yeah. And this is of course the positive test. Yeah? You never know if your problem can be detected if you cannot test it. Yeah? So that's why this antivirus ICAR test file exists. So you don't have to actually put malicious files there. Yeah. So you have this like jail-free card. Yeah. So this one I triggered yesterday. We have an incident for this one. When we go here, here's actually the incident that arrived for this. And in here, you can then refer back to which subaccount was this, where does this came from, what is the Business Application Studio dev space, where this originated from. And this happens out of the box. That's part of the solution. You know? And
so
in there, we have multiple things. Yeah.
I configure my Sentinel. I make sure that it is connected to my BTP subaccount. And then I don't need to create a new rule or something like that. This comes out of the box, this functionality.
Yes. When we check this one, maybe Will, you can share a couple of things about what's in here. Yeah, so I'll bring it up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Martin, you're just showing us the content hub, and in Sentinel, this is our marketplace. You know, this is where all of our first-party and third-party Sentinel solutions can be found. And you know, Sentinel itself it's really cool in that it's play as you go. So once you've deployed a Sentinel workspace, you only pay for what you ingest. In terms of SAP BTP, the data that you ingest is what you pay for, and typically that's not very much in BTP in a single sub-account. Some of our customers have hundreds of sub-accounts, right? So you get the idea. You need to manage this at scale. But you can try this out, and you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get started, right? So this is super easy to set up and use. You know, you can get it test up and running in very little time. You're going to install Sentinel from the Azure subscription, and once you've installed the SAP BTP solution, it comes with the content that you can see here. We have you can see at the top there's a couple of what we call data connectors. The deprecated Azure function-based connector was around in public preview for some time. and that has now been superseded by our codeless offering, which is a part of Sentinel. We call it the codeless connector platform, and what it offers is a way to enable Sentinel to reach out to your audit log and collect it into your workspace without having to deploy any additional resources such as function apps or storage accounts and anything like that. So it's kind of like a native connector that's built into Sentinel. And that's what we use to connect up sub-accounts. And so Martin, I don't know if you want to just open the connector page for that connector. We can have a look at the kind of the UI experience of how you'd go about onboarding a sub-account. And
so while Martin is doing this, is it always on the sub-account level, or could I already say, look, I have access to the global account, so I'll just connect to the global account and it automatically would monitor all sub-accounts?
That's a really good question, and it's one that we asked as well when we first started working with BTP, and certainly that's what we'd like, but sadly that's not the way it works in terms of the technical constraints that we have in BTP. So there is this concept of a global account in BTP, like a sort of top level account, and you can collect the log from that, but the individual sub accounts each have their own audit log instance, and so you need to connect to each of those. The good news is that
actually the global account also has its audit log, right? But it's collecting different things. It's not the you don't have the sum of
individual.
Yes.
Understood.
You still need to have the global account and all the sub accounts. Otherwise, you don't have the complete view. That's why we have these cards here to represent multiple sub accounts within a global account. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we want to try and make this as easy as possible for customers, but there are some limitations inherently in BTP. Maybe one day that will change and there will be sort of a sort of consolidated centralized audit log, but today each sub account has its own log, and that's how we can connect multiple sub accounts through the UI experience. You click add account, you can enter the details of the sub account, the connection string, if you like, in order to connect up to that sub account using the authorization server and the client ID and client secret, which is what you'll find in your service key, and off you go. We can bring in data, and the other thing is that if you're doing this at scale, we also have an API, so you can onboard hundreds of sub accounts in a short space of time. And that's,
I think one of our biggest customers is about on 600 gigabyte per month, right? So
right, exactly. Some of the customers that we have a really large number of sub accounts, and we're talking like hundreds and hundreds of sub accounts, which is, for me, that's a huge management task. And so we wanted to be able to ensure that we could onboard customers who have many sub accounts, and that's what the codeless connector can bring for our customers. The function app, with the old version, you would have had to deploy multiple function apps, which obviously would have been a headache. So that's how we connect up our data. So Martin, if we think about what do we do next? We've collected some data. Maybe we can take a look at the logs and just show the logs and take a look at the
exactly.
The log data that we'd collected from your sub account.
So here, when we look at this is rather unusable. You can do free text search, of course, but you want to run like query languages on this, right? And this is what becomes possible once you have ingested this. And here we have our KQL screen from within my Sentinel workspace. And in here, when we continue this malware thing, we can pick this up now and start making changes to it and perform even the threat hunting aspect of it. Anything you want to call out here, Will, on this?
Yeah, really just to talk about the KQL language or Custo query language. It's very similar to SQL in terms of the way it works. You can start with a table and then you can filter, and it works across masses of data. We're talking terabytes of data, so it's highly performant. We have defined schemas that match the schemas from the audit source, but we're able to pass the data easily. And instead of you having to extract pieces of information from a raw file, we can use KQL, and we can pass the JSON. What you can see here on the screen is we're taking the message data field, and we're able to extract fields from message data. You can see we just reference them in that kind of dot notation, which makes this really easy for the analysts to, with a bit of knowledge of KQL, it's pretty easy to pick up, and you can get some really interesting insights from your data, including visualizations as well. So you can analyze your data and create charts, you can create timelines and all sorts with that. So there's a really powerful language that you can get stuck into when it comes to KQL. So that's a real benefit, and that's what we use to create our detections and also to do threat hunting. So when we create a detection, we can maybe we want to quickly show a detection, Martin, and how that might look.
A detection. So of course we have the incident, yeah, and we will be checking the underlying rule that created this incident.
Right, exactly. So the incident is what the SOC analyst will look at. So think of this like in a large organization, they'll have a dedicated team who just look at security incidents, and they react to security incidents and investigate them. A bit like the ITSM team would manage IT tickets, the security ops team manage security tickets. And so we can create detections that will generate those incidents here in the analytics blade. And you can see we're using some KQL. This one looks like it's extracting the role collection events. We're looking for role collection events where the role is in a list of privileged roles. So here what we're looking at is somebody being added into a privileged role in BTP, one of the built-in roles like Cloud Subaccount Administrator.
Exactly, yeah, the privileged ones here, like with large impact.
Yeah.
And we have pre-configured them, but any customer can extend. Even if they have custom roles, they can add them here too to be picked up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what our solution provides out of the box. It's templates that you can bring into your workspace. Nice. You can decide what's relevant to you, customize it. You can even create your own detection rules. And you can also decide how those rules will run. Do you want to run them every 5 minutes, every 1 hour, every day? Do you want to react with some kind of automated response? And that's a really cool feature. And Martin, maybe you want to talk about some of the things that you've done with automated responses in this space.
Yes, typically we then let the customer think about their process processing and SOAR capabilities. Many of them then bring up the topic of ServiceNow or Jira tickets or whatever their departments need to process this. Yeah? But in here we have also additional stuff that is part of the solution where you can bring up the incident message in Teams. Yeah? We have a screenshot on this on the blog post as well, when we scroll down here a bit, where you get the information pre-provided to the security SAP team so that they can make educated decisions. And one of them, for instance, is blocking SAP users. And you see down here a bit, when I make this a bit bigger, it also says already BTP. Yeah? And when we check one of the playbooks associated there, I've already opened it, so that we are there faster. You can see here, in case we want to lock on the BTP side, because the alert was considered problematic enough and the person clicked on the approve button, we would actually go and get the information to call the service on the BTP side to lock that specific user. Yeah? And then again, you have a closing feedback loop going back to Teams, telling about this blocked user event and informing that user as well that we've blocked them on BTP. And you just provide the information needed, and then you can go there and do it. And of course, we also have the unblock option in case there was maybe wrong decision or false positive or whatever it was. And then you can also unlock this again. And it practically goes through the data interfaces that SAP provides, and you would change the active back to true on the user API that SAP has.
Yeah, some really cool stuff you can do with these automation workflows. And that's a big part of what Sentinel is. It's something that it is a platform, and you can build and you can integrate on top of it. And so that gives us a good flavor of what you can do. This concept of bringing your data in, analyzing the data, being able to search the data and also build detections and then respond to them. We also have something called a workbook, which is a part of Sentinel, which I'll very quickly show you. Workbooks are kind of like an interactive user interface that allows you to visualize your data. You can customize this. So the out-of-the-box template, you can see here what we've got is a trend of activity. We've got anomalous activities which we can detect. In this environment, I don't think we have much happening because it's just Martin's environment, but you can imagine in
Are you saying I'm lazy? Well,
well, not so much lazy, but perhaps that you don't have the scale as many of our customers do when it comes to the sheer volume of activities. But we can see here that there's two tabs. You've got the overview and the identity management, and the identity management tab will give you information around changes in the local user account databases in BTP, activities being carried out by admins, and we can see changes. And we were also able to take that very cryptic kind of JSON blob that was in the audit log output and extract from that into a table, so we can see now in a more human readable format what was going on. So this was, you can see somebody updated a user, they changed the password, and that's again one of the benefits, helping you to make sense of your data and your audit log.
We can actually see Holger is the most rare account on the sub account, so Holger is the laziest one then.
Okay, the anomalous account, that one. Yeah, but at least these are all Microsoft accounts and not a hacker domain, so that's good to see.
True, yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so then we bring it back to the overview. So we've been checking like the authorization trust management. We looked at Business Application Studio and the other standard apps, but there's also the AI core service. This is where the vulnerability was disclosed to SAP, which they needed to patch. And actually, even though we didn't have a detection for it yet, we were able to process it right out of the gate. Yeah? And this is what the blog post then talks about further, and really extendable. And we're open to customer feedback, whatever is like desired. We're happy to add to the solution in terms of services and detections.
Well, that's fantastic. And I mean, everyone probably knows, or hopefully knows, that also from a Microsoft side, we are investing quite a lot in BTP at the moment. So we have quite a few new BTP on Azure regions that are being rolled out. But my understanding is this is not dependent on Azure. So this really works with any BTP region, whether it is on AWS and GCP on Azure. But it just shows that also from a Microsoft side, we see a huge demand for BTP, and it's great that Sentinel is already ready, basically. So now customers are going to use BTP even more, hopefully, using DataSphere and whatever, and Sentinel is already ready to protect these systems as well.
And customers are creating their own rules, but whenever we see a reoccurring pattern or something that is relevant enough, we try to bring it back into the solution, so everyone just profits. When they click update, they get the newest rules and they can bring it to production as they go. Yeah?
And that's really cool. So it's very easy to get started, but as you have shown, I can also extend it. I can also enhance this very easily. If it's just a KQL query that I enhance maybe with my specific properties or my specific roles that I have in place, that looked really, really powerful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this great overview. We touched BTP, or Yossi, thanks for this the introduction on Sentinel. I think you also showed there are lots of other things that we could potentially talk about. So maybe we can have you again on the show, where we talk a little more about what other cool features Sentinel and the security or the Microsoft security team does in the context of SAP. I think that would be also really, really interesting.
I'll be delighted. 30 minutes is never enough to cover everything.
But the idea is to tease. I mean, obviously, the blog post from Martin, we'll have this in the show notes. So anyone who wants to take a closer look at this, we'll put it there. I'll put in some other links to Sentinel for SAP. But yeah, we'll definitely have a follow-up, especially since security is so important for our customers, for Microsoft. So I think it's definitely worth to spend a little more time on these on our offerings there. Good. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again, and yeah, we'll talk again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
Martin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.